After that, I think you've got a group of about 5, from which 2 or 3, and I feel like it's going to be 3 will be kept. And you named them: McCole Hardman, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justin Ross, and Nico Remigio. I think they end up keeping 3 of them. And right now, my 3 would be Sky Moore and Justin Ross and McCole Hardman.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Happy Wednesday. I'm Hayley Lewis, and this is Chiefs News Daily. The Chiefs are getting ready for their preseason finale going down tomorrow. So we got a special interview for you today. We got Blair Kerkhoff from the Kansas City Star giving us all his expertise around the 53-man roster, who he thinks might make it, a few bubble players as well. You don't want to miss it. But always, we ask you to like and subscribe right here on the KCSN YouTube channel, and we roll into it. Blair, always a pleasure getting to see your face. We were talking about the Chiefs coming up on their preseason finale this coming Thursday. And then what? We got from today, we have 15 days away from the season opener on September 5th, opening against the Ravens. It's going to be a huge game. There's a lot of implications that come with this, a lot of bragging rights, revenge, obviously, for the Ravens after the AFC Championship game. You're in the facility, you're talking with the players and coaches. There's a long list of injuries. Do you feel good about the home opener? Are these starters going to be ready to go?
Hayley, great to see you again. I do feel okay about where they stand injury-wise going into the Ravens game on September 5. The reason is we've been kind of assured by Andy Reid and the coordinators that players who have missed a lot of training camp time, like Chris Jones, Derek Nottie, Jalen Watson, Justin Reed. Now, the list is long, as you said. Kind of assured of Joe Toney, Wanye Morris. List is long, but they're going to be available for the season opener. I think it was just a matter of making sure 100% that they were to be. I don't think you want to start with much less than 100% of any of those players, and keeping them out of preseason games and out of a lot of the training camp practices almost assures that.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense. They're going to be, the starters are going to be resting for the last preseason game. The Bears also announcing that yesterday. We all saw Adam Schefter's tweet coming out. No Caleb Williams that we're going to see at Arrowhead Stadium. So it makes sense, obviously, to get them ready. The one that's of concern, though, is Hollywood Brown, right? Reed alluded to that would be the one exception to the players who are going to get ready. How essential is it to have him for week 1? Or is it really better, to rest him week 1, let him get healthy, don't rush it, see him against the Bengals?
Well, it would be great to have him for week 1, because if he was available week 1, that would mean that the Chiefs are pretty confident that he's over the injury. And and what we were told originally was it would take, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and week 1 doesn't fall into that time frame. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Hollywood Brown not play in the opener. And then because it's a Thursday night game, there's a couple of additional days until the week 2 game against the Bengals, which is another huge game for the Chiefs with tiebreaker implications. Maybe back by that game, but maybe it's week 3 against the Falcons, the first road game. I don't think we'll see him early, but we'll see him soon. And I don't think the Chiefs will have to do anything with the roster. I think you just carry him on the roster on the 53, and he's not on injured reserve, so he would miss the first 4 games. I think that the Chiefs are pretty confident that he'll be back pretty soon after the season begins.
Hopefully soon, because week 1 and week 2 are pretty hard for Kansas City as they get things rolling in 2024. You mentioned it, the 53-man roster. That's the conversation, obviously, going into this Thursday night game, and then on to next Tuesday, right? The 27th is going to be that cut-down day where you see them trim that preseason roster. There's a lot of names that I'm sure will pop up, and those bubble players. One of them, a lot of people can't stop talking about, is Rees-Zammit. You've been there. You've seen him. We also got to see his leg this past weekend. Is this a guy who's going to make the initial 53, or would he be potentially one of those players who makes the practice squad, and then, of course, Kansas City could make it 17 because he qualifies as an international player?
Right. So that's what the Chiefs and Lewis Rees-Zammit have going for him, is he wouldn't count against as an international player, wouldn't count against the roster limit. So, yeah, I don't see him as one of the top 3 or 4 running backs. I think the Chiefs will keep 3 or 4. I kind of lean toward 4. Yes, he's been kicking, but they do have Harrison Butker to do all that. He's been a return guy. They have other players in that position as well. So I think he does not make the 53-man roster. They try to put him on the practice squad and let him continue to acclimate to American football. And obviously, quite an athlete. He's got speed. There's a lot to like about Lewis Rees-Zammit. I think the Chiefs, they didn't draft him as a novelty act. They drafted him because they think at some point, they believe he's going to help this team. I just don't see where it happens this year. Listen, if you're on the practice squad, you got a chance. You can move up and down from the 3-man roster. So maybe we see him in action at some point this year. I just don't think it'll be early.
Well, hey, I mean, if you're on the practice squad of the Kansas City Chiefs, right, the reigning Super Bowl champs, it's got to feel good, at least for him, for a guy who's had to completely learn a different sport. They continue to say his attitude has been phenomenal. You mentioned the running back position, also the wide receiver position is going to be one where it's like how many, it's always going into cut down day. It's right, how many are they going to keep? And that number continues to fluctuate year after year. This year going into it, Mecole Hardman comes back. Kadarius Toney is still here, a shock to many people. How do you see the fate of those 2 players going out as they start, and maybe Sky Moore, let me throw that one in there. I'm giving a lot of players, but the wide receiver room is a tricky one to figure out who's going to fall.
Yeah, that position group is the one that probably has generated the most conversation in training camp and up through the preseason games. Mm-hmm. And for good reason, right? The Chiefs made it a priority to add speed in the offseason, and that's why they traded for Hollywood Brown, or signed Hollywood Brown, and drafted Xavier Worthy. And so you add those to a room that includes Rashee Rice and Justin Watson, the top returning wide receivers, and you've got a pretty good core right there. And so I think those 4 are certainly assured of being on the roster. After that, I think you've got a group of about 5, from which 2 or 3, and I feel like it's going to be 3, will be kept. And you named them: Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justin Ross, and Nico Remigio. So how many of that group do they keep, and what's the value for those? I think they end up keeping 3 of them, and right now my 3 would be Sky Moore and Justin Ross and Mecole Hardman, which leaves Kadarius Toney and Nico Remigio out of it. I think if the Chiefs could, they would try to trade Kadarius Toney, see if they can get a 7th round draft pick. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that's going to be possible, but and then Remigio can be on the practice squad, and they love him as a return specialist, but again, I think they've got that position covered with other candidates. So, I think because of the injury to Hollywood Brown, that'll prompt the Chiefs to keep 7, with one of those being Hollywood Brown. So you'd have 6. My guess is 6 available for the opening game against the Ravens. And but yeah, Hayley, you've hit on the position group that is probably created the most conversation in all of training camp.
All right, folks, that does it for another episode of Chiefs News Daily. As always, like and subscribe right here on the KCSN YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we will not see you back here Thursday because there's a game. We'll see you back here Friday night to make sure we recap all those need-to-know headlines from that preseason finale. See you then.